person I'd like to call up here, someone I've only met today, but she's truly at an inspirational and an amazing moment. And God has moved in her life in a way that she has touched thousands, I'm sure thousands and thousands of hearts. And we're all thankful to do it. We're very thankful that you're here. Debbie Lee, will you please come up here for America, American Mighty Warriors.
Hey everybody, it's great to see you today, and hopefully we won't get blown away. Talk about some crazy weather here in Arizona. But I just wanted to be able to thank each one of you who served. I know we've got, excuse me, a lot of us scattered all the way around, and sometimes it's hard to see everybody. But for those of you who served in the military, thank you, thank you, thank you. I wake up every single morning and never take for granted who pays the price for the freedoms I enjoy each and every day. So thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for defending me and those freedoms. I greatly appreciate that. I wanted to take just a minute and share with you my son's amazing story. Many of you may know Mark Lee's story. If you saw the movie American Sniper, in that movie he's portrayed as Chris's officer, the SEAL that's killed in combat. And in that funeral scene, that's supposed to be me reading part of his amazing last letter home. And it was that letter and God's direction in my life that inspired us to start America's Mighty Warriors. But that movie doesn't even come close to showing the real details of Mark and who he was, his character, his heroic actions. It's Chris's movie. It tells Chris's story, but again, it's Hollywood. It's not a documentary. But as you can imagine, as a parent, the most devastating news that you could ever receive is when you're notified that your child has been killed. And for me, that date was August 2nd, 2006, a day that forever changed my life. And we began to get news of Mark's heroic actions. We started to get phone calls from his teammates in Iraq once they knew that we'd been notified. We found out that it had been 115, 120 degrees in Ramadi, Iraq that day. We've seen a lot of those days here this summer in Arizona, but I can tell you, none of us were carrying our body armor. Mark stood about 6'1", weighed about 220 pounds, so he carried anywhere from 150 to 180 pounds in addition to his own weight. How you do that in those extreme temperatures is beyond my ability to comprehend. I've been to Iraq twice. I'm the first Gold Star mom in history to be in the combat zone. I went on a patrol with the 1st and the 4th Cav 3 different times. I wore the body armor, but that's all I was carrying was about 35 pounds, and I couldn't wait until when I got back at the end of the day to rip that off. My shoulders were all tight, my back was sore. And so when you put together 150 to 180 pounds in an intense firefight for 2 hours, and in that heat, I can't even believe how you would do that. We've watched our Navy SEALs do some amazing things. They seem superhuman to us at times. But in the movie, it shows Ryan on the rooftop. The bullets had hit his weapon, so he had severe shrapnel injuries to the head. He dropped to the ground. 2 of the SEALs that were with him quickly dropped to their knees. Mark could have made that very same choice. But his choice that day was to stand up in the line of fire. He carried the big gun. His hope was that he could lay down some suppressive cover and be able to get the medic up to the roof. The medic got up there and he took one look at Ryan. He said, "We've got to get him out of here immediately or there's no chance for survival." So not just once, but a second time again by himself, he stood up in the line of fire to provide that cover so they could all get down off of the roof. They sent Ryan off for medical attention, and they climbed back in their Bradleys, and they headed back to the base, which I'm proud to tell you was named Camp Mark Lee in his memory, and I got to visit Camp Mark Lee. They started to rip off their gear and get some water to refresh themselves. I remember Chris Kyle telling me later that he was pretty sure Ryan had died. They didn't think there was any way he could survive the injuries. Ryan did survive 3 more years, actually lived here in the Phoenix area, and died from complications from surgery. But as they were trying to process that they think they probably lost Ryan, the chief came in and he said, "We just found 30 of the insurgents that just attacked us." And without hesitation, Mark looked at his chief and he said, "Roger that, let's go get them." I've been to Camp Mark Lee. I know on the other side is a big Marine base. They could have gone and gotten some of the Marines who were fresh and ready to go out and battle. But that's not who these guys were. So they climbed in their Bradleys and they headed back to that godforsaken place. They cleared several houses and they went in the last house Mark would be in. They cleared the bottom of the house and they started up the steps and they heard Mark yell, "On me!" And if you served, you know what he was saying? He was saying, "I got the lead on this. You guys follow me." And as they went up those steps, they drew fire through a window. And for the last and final time, Mark made that choice again to stand into the line of fire. He could have ducked below the wall. He could have ran out of the way and let most of his teammates take the casualty. But he made the choice to stand up in that line of fire and give his life to save his teammates. But it wasn't just his teammates that had the blessing that day of life. It's you. It's I. It's every American that has that blessing because of the sacrifices of my son, because of the sacrifices of each one of you that you've made for us to enjoy those freedoms we enjoy every day. And I had no choice in the news that was given to me on August 2nd, 2006. But I did have a choice how I responded. My choice was to put on Mark's boots, pick up his weapon, and stay in the fight for every man and woman who serves, stay in the fight for every other family who's lost a loved one in combat. And we started America's Mighty Warriors to do that very thing. Thank you. Mark's name means Mighty Warrior. That's the meaning of that name. And our foundation is not just Mighty Warrior, it's America's Mighty Warriors, because it's about each and every one of you who served and sacrificed for the freedoms we enjoy every day. You know, when you were up there sharing part of your story, Ron, there's a lot of similarities there. And I'm not going to take the time and start from the beginning because we've been here a while. But there are several similarities, and one of the things you said that it equipped you to be able to do what you do. I went through a very abusive first marriage. My first husband tried to kill me. Married again 8.5 years later, and he ended up taking his own life. And so I have no doubt that on August 2nd, if I wasn't a believer and didn't know who Christ was and knew his character well, he was still the same God on August 2nd as he was on August 1st. His character hadn't changed. My circumstances had drastically changed, but I had confidence in him. I knew that he would see me through. And I can tell you that if I didn't have that relationship and didn't have that confidence, I would have said, "Time out. I'm done. I've been through too much in my life." But God still had a plan for me. And it's been 14 years since I lost my son. And to see the lives that have been saved as we work with our veterans who are struggling with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and suicidal thoughts, I wouldn't have that ability to do that if I hadn't been through what I've been through, lost my husband to suicide, or lost my son in combat. And so why sometimes God asks us to walk a tough path, he walks every step with us. And it's been my honor to be able to have our foundation. We do a lot. We do retreats for other families in Texas, for Gold Star families who've lost a loved one. We have a house here in Surprise and one in Florida called the Heroes Hope Home and the Serenity Hope Home, where those families can come stay for a week and we just love on them and pamper them and let them know we'll never forget their hero. And we won't forget their sacrifice. Mark's last letter home talks about doing more random acts of kindness, how we could change our world. And so we do those random acts of kindness in his memory. He said, "When's the last time you paid for a stranger's cup of coffee or meal or tank of gas?" So we do those often, but we go up to a $5,000 grant. Typically those are a little more crisis situation. The veterans themselves can't come ask for that, but if you have a buddy or a friend that you know and you can help vet that process, you can say, "Hey, this is the circumstances. His house just burned down to the ground. He just moved in. He hadn't got insurance. or we do, unfortunately, a lot of funerals when we lose someone to suicide. But it's been my honor to be able to do this, and God gives me the strength every day. And I think of Mark's final words, on me. And when we started COVID, we did a 20-day podcast called On Me 20. And if you go to YouTube channel, you can watch those are being re-released leading up to Veterans Day. Thank you. But as we recorded those, I wanted to provide hope and encouragement to people. And so that's what those videos do. But we need to be able to say on me. We need to take the lead, and we need to be examples in our world as we allow God to work through us. But thank you so much, Ron, for sharing your testimony. Thank you so much for having us. Guys, I'll be out here at our booth for a little bit if you want to stop by. I've got 2 grandsons playing football here in a little bit.
Don't go anywhere real quick, Debbie. She's like, yay, the surprise part. I love that. Yay. I had to change shirts for this part, but it was totally worth it. So when we started making bracelets as an outreach thing, it was a little daddy-daughter thing about 10, 11 years ago now. And one of the mantras that we started with was that Gold Star families, their money was no good here. They got a free bracelet no matter what. So we started giving them out, and I said, okay, well, we finally made the first one back then when I was a baby paracord. I didn't know much then, so I was doing all the snake braiding stuff. But I Googled Gold Star family, Glendale, Arizona. Poof, America's Mighty Warriors pops up. So I started reading the story. I'm like, Mark Lee, Mighty. Glendale. Wow, this is not an accident. So we mailed it to Debbie. This is 11 years ago now. We've never met before today. So the really cool part is, I called Debbie up for Palooza, and she's like, I can't put a face to the name. And I said, because we've never met. I said, I'm the bracelet guy. She goes, I think I remember something like that. I said, so we went to talk, and we made you a 10th anniversary Gold Star